We are live. Welcome, everyone. It's DeFi Standard. It's Mickey B. Fresh and
PattyXRP.
I thought we didn't have you there for a second. So up on the screen, we got the new XRPL ODL Rosetta. So this is going to be on tomorrow's Ripple X Dev Twitch. So it's pretty cool. A little different than Fiat Leak. It basically shows all the different transactions going from different exchange wallets across the world. I could kind of zoom in here, which is pretty cool. You could do different things and move it around. So this is some new site if you want to play with. It's called 3xrp.dev. So you can scroll down here. There's some different things. It shows you the real-time fiat trades. So pretty cool new little tool for us to look into. Hopefully they'll add more to it. But I know a lot of you like visuals, and this is very visual focused. So it's you can move the thing around like this. So it shows just how many transactions just are going through on every ledger closing. So one thing that, we've heard Elon and all the talk about proof of work and the mining and centralization, but there's also the settlement time and the finality. Like these transactions that are going over the XRP ledger right now, they're final. Like that's finality. The transaction's done, the ledger's closed, and it's move on to the next one. With the blocks on mining, it's just, there's just so many problems with proof of work, outside of what Elon has been saying with, the energy inefficiencies. Then you have the centralization in China. But this right here, those are just transactions that are just done. They're final. So what are your thoughts on proof of work and all the things Elon's been saying and others on Twitter? Patty?
Yeah, I mean, I know that I've been much less of a bull on Bitcoin than a lot of people are, but I won't get into that part and focus on exactly more on like what's going on with Elon Musk and just everybody out there. So, I mean, obviously Elon had to have known that there's a large energy usage with Bitcoin before Tesla went and purchased it. I mean, if he didn't, then I would be seriously worried if I was a shareholder, because that's a pretty basic thing you can find out by doing very minimal research into Bitcoin. And, I think basically he just used Bitcoin because they saw, all right, the price is going up. If we buy this much of it, it's probably going to shoot it up much higher and the dollar's losing value, or we need to find some like additional income. So, they went ahead and bought Bitcoin and got attention into the crypto space that way with the announcement of, Tesla getting into it. And now, he's backpedaling and kind of pointing out some flaws with Bitcoin. So he brought attention to it, and now he's bringing additional attention that's just not as, positive for Bitcoin as a lot of maximalists would want you, to believe. To them, there's no issues with Bitcoin. It solves all the world's problems, which, I mean, it's a big leap of faith to take. And just like Napster or Yahoo were some of the first, Netscape, like in their areas, eventually better tech came and took over for them. So, I think it's just kind of a natural progression with blockchain. Like, if Satoshi Nakamoto was a person that we could talk to, we don't know if it's a group, a government, or a single individual, would he say that, the Bitcoin blockchain is the end all be all for the entire world for, decades on end to come? He probably wouldn't think that.
Yeah, I agree. He thought at first, my understanding is that everyone would be able to mine like from their phones and it would be decentralized and distributed globally. But what happened is the concentration of power just goes to the cheapest electricity. And the cheapest electricity is in China. So how are you going to get these miners to convert to all renewable energy? They're going to have to spend more money than the cheap electricity. So, I mean, I think it's just, a very difficult problem. And, the fact that Pompliano is going on TV saying energy is money, I mean, I don't know where he was going with that, but that argument's not going to fly with the current administration in the U.S. and this whole global green initiative. And Ripple's been pounding the drum about this, just acknowledge a problem, acknowledge a problem. And basically, Elon was like the biggest spokesperson for what just Ripple's been saying. They've been saying this is a problem. Let's just acknowledge it and not ignore it. And now, hopefully, when they come out of this case, if you're a corporate and you're looking to put these cryptocurrencies on your balance sheet, if there comes a carbon tax or something, you can skip over Bitcoin, you can skip right over Ethereum, because that's still proof of work, and it's going to be proof of work for the foreseeable future until they get their act together. And who knows how long that's going to take. And then what do you have next down the list? BNB? That's not going to be considered. That's not even sold in most of the U.S. exchanges. So then what's next on the list? XRP. And Cardano's really not ready to go by any means. So really, XRP is going to be perfectly positioned. And that's just a fact of where we go when this case is over. It's going to be ideally suited. It's got Interledger and all the other components around it, including RippleNet, that's already a live payment network. So if you could start to see the pieces are falling in place here once this case is over, because now proof of work's been exposed. Now the corporates and institutions, they already know about Bitcoin. Now it's like, okay, well, that's a problem. Well, what else is there? And now I think we're starting to see that narrative change. And the narrative change is real, and it's definitely having an impact. I don't think Bitcoin's going anywhere, but it's got some serious problems.
Yeah, and I mean, me and you, like, at least I think I speak for you on this. Like, we never thought, in the long term, when, we've been investing in XRP for years, that Bitcoin was always going to maintain this dominance.
No.
It does, like, do I think that it should be in the top 3 right now? I mean, yeah, definitely, just based on what it's able to achieve over a super long period of time. But just as far as like use cases go, I can think of 10 other blockchains off the top of my head that I think are going to see more utility in the long term than Bitcoin. Like Ethereum, we already see a massive DeFi space, which, I mean, yeah, the gas fees suck, but people are using the blockchain like, all the time. Whether for some DeFi use case, NFTs now and all that stuff. You have XRP, where money is actively being sent across borders, to the tune of billions of dollars so far. So there's like a use case already be used there. And that's just starting off. We see things like Polkadot that are coming up, Avalanche, Flare Network is going to use a piece of that consensus protocol. So there's just like a lot of other opportunities out there. And to think that, it's not like one stock. Like, I know Amazon is like, the gold standard of a stock these days, but it doesn't run the market like Bitcoin runs the crypto market. So what I'm curious to see here is, is Bitcoin just going to, shrug this off and maintain on its path and keep going up? Or do people actually have real concerns about this on aggregate? And, are institutional players, corporates, governments going to change their game plan when it comes to crypto? And, it doesn't all revolve around Bitcoin. I think we're going to have to see, if people actually have legitimate concerns and it's not just like, a moment in time where Elon said some negative stuff about Bitcoin, is that going to drag the rest of the market down? So those are things I think we have to watch for. I have no idea. Like, let's say this becomes a real serious narrative with Bitcoin that lasts, persists over time, especially in today's world, because like things happen and it's like a blip on the radar. You may think something like is really big the day it happens, and a week later, nobody's talking about it. It's just how fast everything moves. So I think we need to see how much staying power this narrative is actually going to have. I mean, I think it's definitely a legitimate narrative, but we'll have to see what everybody else thinks. But yeah, I'm just kind of curious to see how this is going to play out here, because this is definitely another wrinkle that I was not expecting to see in the near future.
Yeah, this happened a little faster than I think many of us thought. This proof of work thing coming to a head. We all knew it was going to be a problem, and green energy, and it came fast. It shows how fast things happen. I don't think it's going away. But for example, like, I just want to say this: Flare, Litecoin, Bitcoin, these other proof of work blockchains, their assets can run on Flare. That's built to be F assets in a decentralized way. Not everything's going to run on the ledger. You can't have Bitcoin run on the XRP ledger in a decentralized way. So, like, I don't know why people keep spinning that narrative. It's just not true. You can't have Bitcoin on the ledger in a decentralized way. It would have to be issued by a centralized entity. It can be issued on Flare in a decentralized way and then brought over to the XRP ledger. But it can't just go onto the XRP ledger and stay decentralized. So we got to kind of drop that whole everything's going to run on the ledger right off the bat. It's going to go through Flare if it's going to be running on the ledger. But it could go on Flare as an F asset. Now that is energy efficient. Flare's network is going to be very energy efficient, just like the XRP ledger. And it's going to be able to settle transactions just as fast and at much lower gas fees than Ethereum. Those F assets can make their way to the XRP ledger if there's a use case for them over there. But not everything's going to run on the ledger because it can't run on there decentralized. So I think we need to backpedal on that one a little bit. I hear too much because it's just not true. So that's one thing I just wanted to just let everyone know, the technicals of how that works. But this is what Flare is built for, to run these proof of work blockchains. These are legacy blockchains, XLM, XRP. They're not proof of work, but Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Doge are. As soon as they're brought over to Flare, they're not using the energy anymore. So they can be used, and their value is 1-to-1, and they get yield with them. So I think this could be even a push for Litecoin holders and others who hold a lot of Litecoin to bring their assets onto Flare. So what do you think, Patty? You think this could be even more of a push for F assets from these proof of work blockchains?
I mean, I definitely think it makes sense for it to cause more of a push. Now we're going to have to see how long that's going to take. My opinion this whole time is a lot of these other coins that have been integrated outside XRP are probably going to be slow at the draw to mint F assets. I think everybody that's been following along with us as we're learning about Flare and researching it, it's definitely a lengthy learning process. And, we're coming up on a time where like a month and a half, 2 months out from launch. And it's a lot to, feel comfortable with before you're willing to mint an F asset, because, you do have to send the native asset over to, this pool of agents or like the dynamic F asset system in order to mint. And that's going to give a lot of people pause. But I do think, as we've illustrated in the past, that the rewards rate from minting F assets early is, could potentially be extremely lucrative. And that's what's going to drive people over. I think, Hugo and the team, like Flare and all them, they see this like they know that people in this space are drawn by yield with the emergence of all these other DeFi platforms and how fast they're growing. And, they're like, well, we should take advantage of using that kind of incentive to drive people to the network. When people see, the number like of dollars or whatever amount going up, then they're going to want to pile in. And that's kind of the route they're taking here. So, I think within 6 months, we'll have, by end of year, Flare should have a good amount of, all these underlying blockchains that are integrated participating already. And definitely probably over $10 billion in F assets minted. If I had to guess, I'd say that would probably be on the low end, but we'll just have to see how it plays out for sure.
Yeah, and that alone, I mean, if that did happen, if that would put 20 billion to 25 billion Spark up as collateral, just right there alone, you would need that much.
It's $1.
If you would need put that much in as collateral, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be also largely dependent on the Spark price as far as how many tokens are locked up. Yeah. But if naturally the more F asset value that's minted, the more Spark is either going to have to increase in price or be locked up. So both of those kind of coincide with each other. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
There's one thing I noticed that a lot of people bring up on Twitter and in the comments section is this word staking. All right. So in proof of stake networks, you stake your asset with a validator. Now, it usually is locked up there by that validator to validate then transactions and earn block rewards. Cardano has it a little differently. You maintain the asset, but there's no staking on Flare. All right, so I want to get that straight. You don't stake your XRP for FXRP. You mint FXRP, right? You just get a whole new asset. You're not staking anything. Now, with Spark, you're also not technically staking anything. You're delegating your FTSO vote, which is detachable from the asset Spark, to earn rewards. That's very different from staking because you're not giving up control of the asset, and you could still utilize the asset in applications while simultaneously earning those rewards. Now, you can enter the Spark into the F asset system and delegate it as collateral into the F asset system through an agent. Now, some might call that staking, but it's really not the same thing as staking with an agent. With proof of stake. So it is very different. So we got to be careful of using that word staking because there is no staking aspect the way proof of stake has staking. All right. So I just wanted to clear that up because I see that all over the comments and I see it on Twitter a lot. So Flare is a very different network than, say, a proof of stake network where you stake the asset. You don't stake the asset with anything to secure the network on Flare. All right, so I just wanted to clear that up. Terminology, they need to come up with a better term, Patty, for what you do with your Spark to put it in the F asset system. You're putting it up as collateral.
Yeah, I don't even know if they refer to it as staking, honestly.
They don't.
But it's like, staking's an easy way to define it because it's like just something that's been, used throughout all of crypto in many different ways. So yeah, really you're just allocating your Spark to be used as collateral. Technically you could say like you're staking in the F asset system.
That's what I've said.
But the thing is, it's, each kind of staking on every network can be different from each other. Mm-hmm. So, just don't assume that because some words used on a different blockchain or a different DeFi platform that it's going to, have the same weight or meaning on the Flare network. I would just be careful of that. Yes. Because, when all these things vary, in a little difference, but in relative, it's kind of the same thing. Like it can be a big difference between what one use of the word is and like another use.
Yeah. So speaking of that, one thing that Patty and I are looking to do, getting closer to the launch, is creating like a glossary of terms for Flare network on the DeFiStandard.com so that everyone could have an easy resource to be able to understand some of the terminology that is used because it is new. So that's something to look out for on the DeFiStandard.com. It's a free resource for everyone to get information on Flare networks, and as more information is released, we'll release that. All right, I'm going to switch screens here because I can't see the chat while I'm doing this.
Cool. Yeah.
Now I can see the chat. I still can't see the chat.
All good.
It's
Let me see
coming.
what I
It's
can
loading.
find. Oh yeah, so Alchemist says he likes his staking medium rare. Personally, I'm a medium guy, but I appreciate that,
I can't
Drove.
see the chat. It's not coming up. I don't know. About chat.
Well, yeah, and Veteran was just asking, so just FYI for everybody, asking about like a step-by-step video, and we're still waiting on the open source code, and once we can, whether it's through a beta or when everything launches, we'll try and get you guys a video as quickly as we can on all that, just so if anybody's feeling hesitant or needs help, we'll have some stuff like that out there, and I'm sure there's gonna be many more people in the community doing it, so
yes,
I think you guys should be good to go. I wouldn't worry about not understanding what to do.
Yeah, I think
that's not something I'm worried about.
I think a lot of this will be abstracted in the background, and it really comes down to the user interface or whatever console that PoW Labs designs to the integration into Flare. I really think it'll be fairly user-friendly, and a lot of this stuff will be abstracted in the background, but to understand how it works is very important. Here's a good question from Lee Maffrey. Wonder if Ripple are going to put their XRP on Flare and the escrow releases. All right, so now this is a real fascinating topic that I always find interesting. So if Ripple did want to do that, they could mint FXRP, and then they could take that FXRP and they could put it in the Trustline Probity Vault, and then mint stablecoins pegged to US dollars for basically zero cost out of their pocket. So now that, yes, they would have to over collateralize it, but literally they can take the seigniorage of having that escrow release and use millions, if not billions, of XRP to just mint dollar peg decentralized stablecoins. I mean, that is something that technically is possible. I don't know if they would do that, but it is absolutely technically possible, and it's, speculation, but it's not really that speculative. It could be done. If they wanted to do that, it's possible, and there's other types of things they could do with that escrow. So that escrow is very powerful in its utility and its use cases, not just its monetary value. All right, what do we got? Next question. Yeah, I did a few videos on that one, Lee Maffrey. If you look back on the playlist of the escrow series, I did a couple videos on specifically that topic. So if you're interested, I did a couple there on that.
Yeah,
I mean, about a month or 2 months ago.
You would think in the long term, that would be something they're going to look into. I think they just got to wait for this case to be over with for anything to come out in regards to that. But I mean, it makes sense to me. Like, they're savvy enough to, handle CDPs and things like that, that they could definitely earn some yield off of it. And especially, if XRP is worth like $10 and they have like, 5 billion, they could be very profitable just getting like a few percentage points on that every year.
So Spencer HS, who puts up the collateral for the F assets to be minted? So those who put up the collateral are all those who own Spark. So if you're a Spark holder, you're able to put up the collateral into the F assets system. Now, exactly how you're going to do that, you might have to delegate it to an agent, and then that gets locked into the F asset system. So all those people who are paying that 5% fee to mint F assets, that fee goes to those who are putting up the collateral. So it's a circular. So instead of paying a fee to some random miner for gas who then's just going to dump it back on the market, you're actually paying to those people who put up the collateral. So it's kind of like a circular economy and a positive feedback loop, because then that allows you to earn actually XRP. If you put up Spark as collateral and FXRP is minted, you earn a percentage of that. Now, how that exactly is going to be distributed to you, we're not exactly sure because they didn't define it. But that is where that 5% fee does go. It goes to those who put up Spark as collateral. You can't put up your own collateral for your own F assets.
Yep.
Right?
That's a good overview. Definitely.
Yeah, that's one that, hey, that's one question that, it's hard to wrap your head around at first because there's really been nothing like this before. So that is new to almost everybody. And it was new to us in the beginning too. Charity many times over. And yeah, most of these things are going to be paid out on a daily basis, possibly a streaming basis. So, for example, like Trustline's building their app called Probity Vault, right? You put your FXRP in as collateral, and you could lend the RA out. And now you earn that interest in real time, and it compounds every second. So it'll compound every second in real time. And in a way, that's kind of like streaming. So I think we will start to see more of a streaming type yield in a way than just like weekly payouts or daily payouts even, but streaming payouts.
Yeah, that would be really interesting to see. And I mean, I think we know who does that, right?
Yeah. And Ledger does it.
Yeah.
I've seen it on some of even the ERC standards. That's another thing we need to get familiar with. So we don't want to hate on Ethereum too much because, in all honesty, the ERC standards are going to be the ERC standards on Flare. So all the smart contracts, the ERC20 standard, that's going to be the same on Flare. We're just ripping out all the bad things that come with Ethereum, taking all the good things. So there is a lot of Ethereum built into Flare. The team did say that could change in the future, though. So it is possible that they move on to a different virtual machine, smart contracts. I don't know how they would do that, but they did say that at least.
I mean, I like that they're keeping some flexibility.
Yeah.
You never know what kind of game-changing tech's going to come out any day. So might as well be open to being able to plug that into your blockchain, especially, if these are, systems that are supposed to be used for decades to come in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I know Agoric they're funded by Ripple too, and I know they're building some really cool stuff on Cosmos. They have a token coming out soon too. So that's something else to look into. I know the Flare team is pretty close to them. Do we have any other questions here? Questions always seem to come flying in like halfway through.
Tom was asking, any word on the progress of the security audit? No. All we know basically is Flare's probably going to launch end of June to end of July, somewhere in that time frame. I think one day we'll just get a flood of information, and I'll be like, oh, okay, now I wish we had more time.
So Veteran asks, do you ever see XDC going on Flare? All right, so when it comes to F assets being added to Flare, when the network goes live, it's up to us. It's up to the Spark holders and owners to decide which F assets to bring over and which not to. And then they need to get a super majority vote to be brought over. So it will be up to us. I mean, I don't foresee any new ones being added prior to the network launch, Patty. Do you think there'll be any more? I mean, there's 4.
Cardano's the only one that I think maybe will be added.
Maybe. But I think they have a good amount now to where the system, I think, is... that's enough. There's going to be a lot of FXRP minted if all. I think the other 3 are just going to be minuscule in the beginning, and then they'll pick up. But it's going to be mostly FXRP. So that means if you're... I don't even want to use the word staking, but if you're entering... I mean, it is staking, but it's just a different type of staking.
Yeah.
Your Spark in the collateral system, you'll be earning XRP with your Spark. So where else can you earn XRP with another asset that you got for free? So that's pretty powerful there. So that's why that 5% fee does sound to deter some people, but at the same time, that's the one who's rewarding. That's what's rewarding those for putting up Spark as collateral.
Yeah. Let's see.
And thank you to all the mods. Thank you, XRP Lou, Dale. We got good old Don in here. And who else is in here with Charities? Dale. Yep. Thank you all, mods. Yeah. We appreciate your help all the time. And, yep.
Cool.
Here's a
So,
good question. You want to do that one?
what do you have? You go for it.
Yeah,
Just thought of one.
FTSO needs Spark for updating. RA is a stablecoin backed by Spark and F assets. Then here comes the TCN vault for RA, or RA is the TKC fully developed. I'm definitely lost on that. But all right, let me just explain, I think, what he's saying. So you put FXRP or Spark in the Probity vault, and now you mint this stablecoin. You have two choices then. You could borrow the stablecoin yourself and pay interest on it, or you could immediately lend the stablecoin to the treasury in one, and then you just earn interest in that. Now you could earn that interest in the TCN governance token or in RA. Now TCN is the governance token of Trustline. It's guaranteed to equal at least $1 in value or more. While your FXRP is in the vault, you're still able to simultaneously earn the daily Spark rewards. If it's Spark that's in the vault, you're still able to simultaneously delegate your FTSO votes. So on top of whatever yield you're earning from the RA, you're able to earn the native yield of the protocol, which allows you the F assets with Spark and the FTSO delegating. So these are things that just come with these tokens to begin with. And then these dApps, you don't have to have crazy high yield. So RA is not going to pay a ridiculous high yield, but it's going to be a little more of a lower risk option that you could just safely put your FXRP in a vault and just lend out the RA stablecoin. You could also issue it on the XRP ledger and maybe use it in other dApps. So hopefully that answers that question. We're not sure what you could do with the TCN governance token, which stands for Trustline Credit Network. You might be able to stake that in a governance pool. That's in the way you do YFin with Flare Finance. I'm not sure. Still waiting on details. But they're chugging along, the Trustline project. They should be launching shortly after the network goes live.
Yeah, and I know Matt has shared that like he's still, ironing out final details on how exactly that whole thing's going to work. If you guys want to find out more about that, highly suggest you check out their Telegram page. The head dev is in there, and he'll communicate with people and ask what people think about things. There's plenty of people to help with questions about like what you could do with Trustline in the future. So really, like I've found these Telegrams and Discord channels that actual like projects actually host tend to, have a lot of information that you can look into and kind of ask questions. So I noticed there's a couple of questions about the IOUs.
Yes,
so
good question.
yeah, so Crypto Whale said that the Spark IOU on Bitrue is around $2 and Poloniex is 40 cents. He goes, I know all the benefits of having Spark on launch, but would all those benefits make you more Spark than just buying on Poloniex and getting it over 2 to 3 years? Yeah, so we're not going to be able to answer that right now because that takes a lot of math. But essentially, you need to find out what is the opportunity cost of having your Spark delivered to you at a later time frame than all up front. There's a reason there's a premium on the Bitrue IOU, and that's because having everything you purchase at once right at launch is going to give you access to a bunch of yield that you get upfront when the rewards are going to be the highest in the network. Now, where the Poloniex one I think may be more worth getting is if the price of Spark is really high, like let's say $50 in the long term, then it may just be about let me get as much future rights to Spark as possible. But yeah, I don't really have an opinion on how high the price is going to be in 3 years to weigh against that.
Yeah, let me just clarify that for a second. So the IOUs that are on Bitrue are basically just the first 15% that's going to be released at launch. So Bitrue allow their users to sell that initial release. Now, that's what you're buying if you buy an IOU there. You're not getting anything else. Now, on Poloniex, you're buying the whole allocation of that Spark. So if you say you're going to buy, say whatever it is, it's a 10,000 Spark. That's the whole allocation there. So you'll only get 15% of that 10,000 Spark at launch, right? So this is why I've been saying you own the whole allocation. This is why it doesn't matter if it's the initial drop or the drops after that. It's your ownership. Even the exchanges are letting you sell. So those people on Poloniex, they're able to sell their whole allocation. So they have the ownership right to them. Be careful, be careful, be careful of these tax attorneys. They do not understand. Be very careful. That's the only thing I'm going to say on that. Be very careful with them, because a lot of the best ones don't seem to get it. So get your whole allocation. So that depends how you want to play it. Do you want to, pay less money? That's the strategy thing, Patty. Like, you got to trust the exchange that they're going to be there for 2 to 3 years too, that you're going to be able to access it. But that's, a strategy thing.
I mean, personally, they're just, somebody asked, like, I guess if I'd be buying them or you'd be buying them. I mean, my opinion is that the IOUs are very overpriced right now. Especially they have
Bitrue?
And the Poloniex one by nature. I would have to immediately, just off the top of my head, I would discount the Poloniex IOU to be 15% of the Bitrue one, which, I mean, it's around 40 cents. So it's trading slightly higher. Plus you have like any price appreciation in the long term when you get it. So, I mean, it's probably trading at roughly at around the correct rate to the Bitrue one, just by nature of when you get it. But I mean, I just think that we're going to see, there's going to be, let's just not even include Flare Limited. So let's say Flare Limited doesn't sell any. If with what the XRP holders are getting, it's around like 4.5 billion Spark at launch. I still think that a bunch of people are just going to sell it right out the gate. But I mean, like, that's something you got to evaluate on your own and see how people are, feeling. If you want to decide, like, oh, do I think when this thing's alive that it's going to trade higher than the IOUs trading at right now? That's the reason you would buy the IOU. If you think it's going to be trading lower once the Flare network launches, then you're going to want to wait to buy it. And I think $2 is a really high valuation for the entire network to, or like its main asset to be valued at right out the gate when it hasn't even been tested or anything, in a real life environment. That's just too risky for me personally. If it goes higher than $2, I'm gonna be pretty happy because I already own Spark. So that's another thing. If you don't own Spark already, then you may feel like you need to buy those more than somebody that's getting the airdrop as an XRP holder. So there's just a lot of things to take into consideration there.
Yeah. All right, so Adam Cobb has a great question here. When we yield farm our F assets for Y Fin on Flare Finance, will we also be able to receive our Spark rewards from the F assets general rewards pool, or will we have to forfeit them? So it's up to the app to integrate that, and it's our understanding that we know Trustline is definitely going to integrate that. Flare Finance, we believe, will be. But here's the thing with the Flare Finance. If you're putting FXRP in a liquidity pool with another asset, because usually you have to put in 2 assets into a liquidity pool. So you have to put FXRP and, say, XUSD. The amount of FXRP that you have is going to fluctuate on a daily basis depending on the liquidity of the pool and to balance out the price. So you might have less FXRP one day and more. So how they would calculate that, it is possible to do. That's for the liquidity pool. Now, if you put FXRP in a one-sided Flare farm pool, yes, you should have no problem receiving the daily rewards. What else is there on Flare Finance that you could receive? The Flare loans, you should be able to in most, but you got to check with Flare Finance when they come out with more details. But I would say most applications are going to integrate it, because if they don't, then people are going to be like, well, why am I going to use that app when I could get daily Spark for just holding my F assets? So most of these applications or DeFi apps are going to integrate that. Really, all they need to do is just take a snapshot on a certain time of day and just know how much FXRP you have, and then they calculate the dollar value, and then they just drop it to your wallet. I mean, it's from what Matt said at Trustline, it's not going to be too difficult to implement. So, Adam, I think we should be good on that. We should be able to get both. But there might be new applications that come out in the future that don't integrate it, and that's when you got to be careful. So, we'll see. Right, Patty?
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, I just don't want to speak for Flare Finance. They didn't. Indy from Flare Finance said most likely yes. So we could go on that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, like how they would be able to do it. So it doesn't seem like it's not feasible. They just have to set it up in that way. And that's something that Hugo and his team really pointed out in the white paper, was that people that are building on top of the Flare network should really look to not, give people an uncomfortable opportunity cost aside between using your platform or using the Spark token for its like native needs that are built in. You should try and facilitate both. So I think we'll see a lot of people or firms and projects try and implement that over the long term. Yeah.
Yeah, no, good point. Prashton Shevda says, can you please explain why there is risk of losing our assets in other activities other than the FTSO delegation, which is totally risk-free? Why aren't the other activities risk-free? I believe that most of them are risk-free. If you mint your FXRP with your XRP, you're guaranteed to get it back trustless. So there's no risk there. The only risk is trusting the protocol itself. That would be like trusting XRP's protocol to hold your XRP in a self-custodied wallet. That's the trust. So yeah. FXRP is trustless. That's what they're calling it. Staking it with an agent in the F-Asset system, we don't know exactly what the risks there are, but most likely that will be very low risk. The most risks are going to be in the applications, not from these actual FXRP minting and Spark staking in the F-Asset system. They're very low risk. The FTSO delegation is obviously no risk because you're not even doing anything with your token. You're just delegating the FTSO vote. What's up with Crypto Whale and the spamming in the chat?
I don't know. We got it though.
Every
Dale
time
got
we
it.
have a live stream.
Yeah.
We like I just Crypto Whale, but man, you're spamming with the messages.
Yeah, I also just want to touch a little more on that last question. So, one of the things with like a lot of the stuff that's on Flare network from the get-go, you can think of that as like the bottom layer. And then like Mickey was saying, a lot of those things are lower risk to zero risk, like using your detachable FTSO vote. And that's just because like the Spark's never leaving your wallet, but then you get, exposed to more financial risks as you go out on the limb for DeFi products. So like, a two-sided liquidity pool can expose you to impermanent loss because you're only locking in that value for the most part when you put it in. If you have appreciation, then you may not be exposed, or you're not going to be exposed to that price appreciation. So it's just like different products are going to have different risk levels. And so just like realize the Flare network is like the base layer blockchain, and then things that get added on top are going to have their own kind of like, structure to how they're made and how they function, similar to how buying different derivatives like an option or a swap contract, or, buying futures on oil or something, all those come with different risk profiles in the traditional markets, or maybe just buying a stock or owning gold. It's just like they're different things. So not everything's going to be the same throughout the entire network like that.
Well said. All right. So D. Auckland, that's a good one. What is the difference between FTSOs? So I think he's talking about signal providers. How will we be able to compare who's better? Do you think the DApp could also auto switch you to the best option in anyone working on that idea?
if
So
somebody makes it.
that's a great point. Now, I'm not aware of anyone making an auto switch, but I know you can auto delegate to some of them. So if you're delegating with this signal provider, I think it was ftso.uk said, as you earn that spark, it will auto delegate the new votes that come with that fresh spark that you just received. So then it will just compound every day. Now you're allowed to switch those votes out per day. So if you're not happy with them one day, you just move to the next one. And you can spread them around as you like, but your question's really asking which is the best option. Now, I think there's going to be multiple variables here because there's going to be a commission rate, there's going to be an accuracy, and they're also going to want, remember, F assets do come with FTSO votes too. You don't earn any rewards for the F asset FTSO vote, but the signal providers want them because it gives them more voting power. So that's another variable where they might package different things together where if you delegate your F asset votes with them too, they give you a better commission rate. So I think there'll be certain variables here where they could make different packages up. But I do think we could see a yield, some kind of data aggregator that will somehow give you the best options. But we also got to see how they do. You know, some might be better than others. You there, Patty?
Can you hear?
No, I'm losing you. Is delegating to my FTSO provider gonna be seamless? Let's just say hold in my wallet and during a certain time of the day I go in my wallet and click a button. Is there details on this matter yet? So free KIP, there's no details yet, but like I was saying, you can auto delegate. We don't know what it's going to look like. Here's my speculation. I think that there's going to be some kind of console that will be like an app that will just integrate into the Flare network that will allow you to delegate to signal providers. It will allow you stake to F assets. Because I've looked around at other integrations to different networks, like they call them like consoles or stations, where you'll be able to do different things from there. And your Spark, maybe they'll have probably a Web3 wallet, not MetaMask, but along the lines of MetaMask, that will connect to that console. And then that Web3 wallet's going to still have to connect to the dApps. So there's different steps here. So you like the Flare station, and then how do you connect to the Probity Vault? And how do you connect to Flare Finance? You're going to have to connect to those two. So your Ledger Nano is going to be way abstracted in the background. So you're probably not going to be doing much with that. You would just have to make sure that connects to the station. And that's what Toho Labs is working on, to make sure that your Nano Ledger or whatever hardware wallet you have will connect to that app console or whatever they're calling it. And that should allow you to connect to the signal providers who you want. They should be listed on there. But I'm speculating on that. That's just my kind of like educated guess there.
Yeah, I would imagine it's not going to be like super difficult.
No,
this is like the most simple thing in the whole network that you can do. I mean, it's literally just saying, okay, I'm going to delegate X amount of Spark to be used with.
I'm not hearing you, Patty. I don't know if they're hearing you.
Dude, my internet's out.
No, I hear you now. You're good.
It just keeps buffering. I don't know what's going on. It's normally fine.
5G, 6G, it's always the same.
Yeah, I have some AT&T fiber, but I guess that doesn't hold up all the time.
Not Patty's back, right? I hope they could hear you.
Yeah.
All right. So how about this question? Yeah, Ricky Bell Jr. asks, Property Bank or Probity Bank, I think he means. How do you earn equity in Probity Bank? What do you do with it, and what do you earn? I think he's talking about basically if you put in your FXRP, you're able to mint the RA stablecoin. And now you could just lend that out. So that's the equity, I think. Right, Patty? How that's described?
I mean, equity.
Not
You know,
here.
that kind of sounds like security to me. I mean, I guess not. You'll put whatever you're going to use as collateral into the probity vault, and then from there, they have like 3 separate contracts. I want to say it's maybe the loans out RE that gets minted based on how much collateral algorithm to determine the interest rates. And you know, when a new person takes out a loan, a new interest rate is set, and then it starts accruing on this. The yield does, and you can kind of like take that out in TCN, which is Trustline Credit Network semi-stable token, where you can take it out in. So basically, it's gonna like the rate's gonna be changing, you know, multiple times a day at least, I would imagine, unless like nobody's using it. That's gonna move the interest rate, so it's gonna be a variable interest rate.
Yeah, so I think it was talking about here. So there's 3 components to the trust line. There's the vault, where you put in your FXRP or other F assets or other ERC20s or Spark, and that allows you're supplying collateral to be stored in the vault. You could either supply or borrow RA by interacting with the Treasury and teller contracts. So that's where you, at that decision, you can either issue or redeem. Treasury contract owns the RA reserves. The reserve is equivalent to the amount of RA that is liquid for borrowing. The 2 Treasury management methods are issue and redeem. By invoking issue, the caller locks the collateral in the vault to mint RA. The new RA is owned by the Treasury contract. Then there's the teller. The teller contract creates the loan and tracks the debts. The borrow interest is automatically determined based on the amount of RA liquidity. The 2 loan management methods are create loan and repay loan. By invoking create loan, the teller locks collateral in the borrower's vault and sends the RA from the Treasury to the caller. This updates the interest rate based on the change in the RA liquidity. So you could either borrow it or lend it. But it is a little confusing there. Wouldn't you say, Patty?
Yeah, I was going to say, I have a diagram of it on our website if you'd want to pull that up so people could see like the flow. Oh. And it's under Flare Network and then Trustline. Oh, once it's loaded.
There we go. Ooh. I see this diagram.
Yeah, there we go.
Look at that. All right, everybody. So there's our diagram.
Yeah, so I can kind of walk through this.
Walk through it.
Yeah, so basically, make and post collateral, and in this scenario, XRP or FXRP is equal to $1 for simplicity's sake. So Mickey delivers 1,500 FXRP to the vault contract. The and 1,500 FXRP locked in this vault that has a 1.5x collateral ratio. That means you can mint up to 1,000 RE. And then let's say Lars wants to come in and take out a loan for 500, then that would put the interest rate at 2% based on the algorithmic formula that they have for deciding what the interest rate is based on supply and demand. So in this instance, there 50% of the total RE supply is loaned out currently. And so you can see these 3 separate contracts have different areas, which was Mickey was just going over on the Trustline page. So the vault, the Treasury holds the RE reserves, and then the teller is the one that handles the loan management. So like you don't need to be interacting, like Mickey wouldn't have to interact with Lars in this scenario for him to loan Lars RE. That's all handled by like the Trustline credit network and, you know, and essentially or, if you want to call it the probity ecosystem, something like that. So that can kind of show you. And also, like, the person taking out the loan, they have to post collateral as well. So obviously it's heavily collateralized to make it really, as low risk as possible. And if Lars was to miss on a payment, then that would just automatically be deducted from the vault that he locked his, whatever he's putting up as collateral. I don't know if it's going to be the exact same. I assume it'd have to be FXRP or Spark to start, and then other F assets in the future. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very, all this will be abstracted in the background, and the user interface that they've shown, there's a beta version out there, an alpha version that Matt is working on. But this will also connect into the Trustline credit network, which is going to allow for then borrowing credit. So this is one component of it, and this is built on Flare, but it also integrates onto the XRP ledger. So now we're starting to get into some really cool, more complex applications here. And that's what I think we're going to see in the future with Flare Network. All right, I think on that note, we're going to wrap it up, Patty.
Sounds good. Yeah, my internet is.
Yeah, Patty's internet is dying on us.
I know. Now you can rag on me for that.
All right, everyone. Wait, we got one more question here. Can you explain about standard custody receiving the license in New York? Is it for holding institutional crypto investments? So, standard custody received a trust charter. The same thing that Coinbase has, the same thing that Bakkt has. They could basically operate an exchange. They could do pretty much anything that Bakkt could do, Fidelity could do. They could trade crypto. They could have an exchange. They also partnered then with that Cohen investment bank, which gives them basically access to everything. They could trade securities. They could trade derivatives. They could basically trade everything. So between standard custody, receiving the New York Trust Charter, which is basically a bank without fractional reserve banking, so they can't lend fractional reserve. So they could do pretty much everything else that a bank could do, Raymond. And then that partnership with Cohen is basically an investment bank, like wealth management. They'll be able to do all types of funds, securities tradings, FX tradings, derivatives. So between the two of them connected there, they opened up the capital markets pretty much to digital assets. Let's see how that actually integrates. It looks like it's going to be a settlement platform of some sort, even though that's what the XRP ledger is. Let's see where they're going with that. I expect to see some big news coming out after the settlement. And just before we go, I really do think once this is over, this case, we're going to see a massive push from like the marketing side of Ripple, RippleX, partners. I think we're going to see full out, all out, marketing push. XRP, Ripple, everything. Things we haven't seen before because of the security issue, the regulatory uncertainty. Once we could get clarity here, then we should see things flip. But I just hope everyone could see how fast a narrative can change. Like everyone thought, Bitcoin's the standard. We're gonna, you want to get a bunch of Bitcoin. No matter what happens, Bitcoin's always going to be there. In a matter of literally 2 weeks, I think a lot of people doubted this out there. And they're like, oh, wow, proof of work maybe doesn't have as long left as it does. So just be aware that these narratives change so fast and the ecosystem is rapidly changing. Like 2 years ago, people didn't even know what DeFi was. So what's 2 years from now? We're going to have all different types of products. So this is going to continuously go on. So personally, I don't have any true exit strategy. I might have a take profit strategy, but this ecosystem is going to keep going, this market. So I have no exit strategy. I wouldn't even be thinking about exiting because this thing is just going to keep going and get bigger and bigger. And there's going to be other investment opportunities built out from just XRP and Flare. Who would have thought a year ago that we would have this whole new token airdrop to us and a whole new smart contract that we could earn yield on? No one never thought that. So let's see what happens. And You just got to stay on top of it. What you knew 5 years ago is irrelevant to what's happening now. So just important to always keep learning and keep learning and keep learning.
Yeah, that's the one thing that doesn't change, right? You still need to learn.
Still gotta, what you learn now is more important than knowing what you knew in 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
That stuff's irrelevant now. It's knowing now what's going on, because this is a completely different market than it was in 2017 and 2018. I mean, I just, I came in late 2017, early 2018, and it's very, very different. Everything. And it's changing so fast, so fast. So we're all in this together. And honestly, as a community, we need to be accepting and open to like the Litecoin community. I encourage everyone to, Doge, and XLM. And, Flare is trying to end the tribalism and bring these communities together. So if you do speak to people from outside, just, share the information about Flare, send them to the DeFi standards, send them to flare.xyz, so they can understand that, hey, if they bring their assets over here, they could just earn yield. It's going to take time. We don't expect them to just jump. All of a sudden, Flare goes live and all these Litecoin people are going to jump on there. We know that's not going to happen. But for us that who do own XRP, you have the opportunity to take advantage and make a killing in the beginning, because others are not aware of what's going on. And it's the community that needs to catch up, and then the market's going to have to catch up. So on that note, how do you withdraw XRP from Flare? You just redeem. So you just
give your
redeem.
You would give your FXRP back to the F asset system, and then pay a really tiny redemption fee. It's like 0.1% of the total value, and that's paid in Spark. And then the agents deliver you the XRP back to the wallet that you specify. So that's pretty much how it goes down.
All right, let's get going here before Professor X goes on a rampage.
Death is undefeated.
All right, everyone. Have a good night and enjoy. I'm Mickey B. Fresh.
I'm PattyXRP.
And we're out.